Hey guys, and welcome back to the Ramble. I am your humble hermit host, Maria Legier, he of the eternally squeaking chair. And this is Reproductive Rights, part 1 of 3. There was a case over here in the frozen wastes of Norway some years back, in which a man was tricked into fatherhood. Now, I am certain that there are plenty such cases that we never get to hear about, without a doubt. But this one stuck out due to the man in question making it a case, running to the media and whoever else was willing to listen. The guy hooked up with a woman for what he thought was a one-night stand. The woman told him that he didn't need to wear a condom since she was on birth control. All fine and dandy, one supposes. Until he suddenly got the news that he was out to be a father, with all the expectations of child support and such. Turns out she lied about being on birth control, dishonest lying bitch that she was. Rape by deception, anyone? And this was done on purpose. Reason given? She wanted a baby. And that's all the reason needed, apparently. As expected, people in general were not sympathetic to his plight. For men, consenting to sex is consenting to parenthood. It doesn't matter that she lied about birth control. It doesn't matter that her intentions were dishonest. It doesn't matter what he wanted, wished for, or whatever. She was pregnant, she had a child, and he was responsible. Even when he took her on her dishonest lying word. Her choice, his responsibility. Such as it is, was, always shall be. People were not kind to him, neither understanding nor empathetic. For men, as we all know, empathy is a rare commodity. This is not something new to those of us who have choked on the proverbial red pill. He had to understand, the commenter said, that sex could lead to pregnancy. If you play the game, you have to understand the rules. That she lied was of no concern. He should have known better than to trust her. He should have worn a condom. He should have taken responsibility to protect himself, and probably her as well, despite her claiming to take responsibility by using birth control. She, to the eyes of the public, is exempt from her responsibility, even when she lied in order to get pregnant by him. Seems any man would have done. He just happened to be available. It is so astonishingly remarkable to hear feminism, and society in general, claim that men are the irresponsible, childish and immature ones, when women are not even expected to take responsibility for their willful trickery and deceit, whereas men are made to take responsibility for being tricked and deceived. Women are wonderful, you know. Now, to be honest, I have to agree without a doubt that it was at best naive of him, at worst stupid of him, to blindly believe the word of a woman whom he did not properly know. However, this does not negate the fact that she purposefully, willingly, knowingly lied to him, thus misleading him so that she could have her baby. A woman, you understand, has the God-given right to have a baby. Norway recently allowed for single women to be impregnated using donor sperm, thus creating even more single mothers. She also has the God-given right to not have a baby, depending on this and that and whatever. No need for her, then, to understand that fucking can lead to a child. That is only for the man to understand and take responsibility accordingly. A man has no rights, only responsibilities, not only for his own choices, but for the choices of a woman. Even when deceived, even if the baby was a product of a lie, now caught in the clutches of a dishonest mother and a father who never wanted a child in the first place. I can't help but wonder about this woman and her psychological makeup, when she is clearly capable of lying about something with such long-lasting consequences. Showing no remorse even when the consequences do not only affect her, it undoubtedly affects both the father and the child. His wants, needs, wishes and such don't matter. Men effectively have no reproductive rights. This lack of reproductive rights are so remarkable that a boy who is below the age of consent and who is, as such, a victim of statutory rape will be forced to pay child support to his rapist. At least that is the case in the USA, see link down below. I see no reason to believe this to be much different in other parts of the world. The bill has to be paid by someone. Why should the government pay the bill? Why should the mother pay the bill even when the child was a product of her raping him? That would make her responsible for her actions, and we can't have that. The boy must be held responsible, goddammit, even when he could not by law consent to sex. One would assume that an inability to consent to sex would also render one incapable to consent to fatherhood, but the clown world don't work like that. That would not be fair in clown world. Honk honk, say the judges and the law and the politicians. Honk honk, say the society and garbled masses. Honk fucking honk, say the media and the enablers of this strange and peculiar female lack of agency. As the news spread about this poor unwilling father in Norway, the case of this man spread and the commenters were still vicious in their removal of responsibility from the woman. A few commenters felt sorry for him, but still conceded that he had to be aware of the risks associated with a good old-fashioned willy wetting. He, being a man, should be the responsible party and own up to his mistake, take it like a man. That was the general consensus, the words whispered on the wind as it were, even when it quite blatantly was her dishonest deceit that made the situation such as it became. His pleading His pleading fell on deaf ears. The law was unyielding, and so too were the murmurs on the street. If a man has sex with a woman, he has to be aware that this can lead to pregnancy. And if she is pregnant, she holds all the cards and all the rights. He holds only the responsibility of fatherhood. Sounds awfully familiar, does it not? As though it is a song we have heard, a tune we have danced to for decades upon decades. Women have rights, men have responsibilities. Women need not pay for their freedom. Men must pay for the illusion of freedom. Even when women purposefully and evidently lie, they have rights. Misleading someone, tricking someone into parenthood is not a problem, if the dishonest party is a woman. Women can lie, even when the lie has long-lasting and dire consequences, with impunity. Men can be tricked, can be made subject to fraud, and still be held responsible for her actions. At the same fucking time as this case was running the gauntlet of mass media madness, articles started popping up here and there and everywhere regarding stealthing. Stealthing refers to a man removing a condom during intercourse without informing his partner. This, the murmurs stated, ought to be considered as rape. Now, I would absolutely agree that it is immoral and dishonest, but rape? That is pushing the boundaries a bit. Sexual assault, perhaps, but not rape. We all know that feminist hive mind have been pushing more and more things under the umbrella of rape, and this is no exception. In fact, it should be punishable by law, said the hordes and the wailing banshees in perfect harmony. Imagine someone being so mean as to purposefully, willingly, with malice aforethought lie about using protection. Who ever heard about something so wicked and so mean-spirited? Who ever knew that such terrible men existed out there? Men had to take a deep look at themselves and how they treat women, because this behavior was unheard of. Absolutely horrible. All men everywhere was complicit in this for the sole reason of wielding a penis. It didn't matter whether any individual man had done this, he was still responsible by virtue of cock. No one, it seems, picked up on the obvious cognitive dissonance on display. The very same pundits, the very same news outlets, the very same society that had condoned, made excuses for and protected a lying, thieving bitch of a woman. The very same public, the very same society that had doomed the poor man whose predicament introduced this ramble to take responsibility for her choices, now stated that the very same behavior was rape and should be punished, if done by a man towards a woman. Unfucking believable, though hardly surprising. And this was years before I myself started writing about all this gender stuff. But I remember it with clarity as one of those huge red pill moments in my life. One of those remarkable happenings that gently nudges one in a certain direction. Proof proper that men and women are not treated equally, be that by society or by law. Proof that men are, contrary to what we have been told, at a huge societal and legal disadvantage. We have no reproductive rights. Not only that, men and women are not treated the same, be that in the eyes of the law or in the eyes of the public, even when doing the exact same thing. The only illusion men have of reproductive rights is abstinence, to keep it in our pants. But then men are shamed and ridiculed for being incels and virgins. Women may be slut-shamed, mostly by other women, and this is true, though more like than not to the extent feminism claims. Men, on the other hand, are virgin-shamed. Incel is so commonly used as a slur and an insult nowadays, thrown towards us damned soggy-kneed bastards in the manosphere with careless abandon, that one should be blind to not notice it. For a man not to have sex, there must be something wrong with him. Whether it is by choice or not, there is something wrong with him. Granted, to the eyes of society overall, there is something wrong with a man if he actively pursues sex as well, or relationships with women for that matter. Men have only got one thing on their minds after all. And it's disgusting, as all and sundry will tell us. Over and over again. In fact, there's something wrong with men full stop and no matter, unless he is handsome, rich, or both, one comes to learn. Tricking a man into becoming a father by whatever means available to a harrowing harpy is referred to as sperm jacking or spurgling. It is, in fact, common enough to get its very own fancy newspeak words. The man is held responsible no matter. If the woman decides to go through the trash to find a used condom, gather up the sperm and use this to impregnate herself, he is held responsible. Men have no reproductive rights, have neither societal say nor legal sway over what happens to his genetic material. His sperm is a gift given to the woman willingly during intercourse, even if it is in a condom post-sex, or delivered via a blowjob. If she wants to keep a baby, he's on the hook. If she wants to terminate the pregnancy, he has no rights whatsoever. It is her body and it is her choice after all. That is the famous slogan, handcrafted by sloganeering women so egotistical and selfish that they are incapable of understanding that it is not only her body, it is also part of his body, part of his genetic material, as well as being the body of the as of yet unborn child. Claiming that it is her body, her choice, is dishonest on the face of it. But it is a sly and wonderful rhetorical trick, playing upon our willingness to protect women above all else, even at the cost of children. Women are wonderful, and they must be protected. Most of all, they must be protected from agency and responsibility. Now, for more or less full disclosure, this comes from someone who is not completely opposed to abortion, not as such. I believe it should be restricted and not embarked upon easily, nor should it be taken lightly. My main reason for not opposing abortion full stop is a simple one. Abortions will always happen, whether in the relative safety of a hospital or not. If we were to remove access to abortion, I fear we would see a rise in backyard abortions, things done with knitting needles and other unsavory things, quite possibly by equally unsavory characters. The health risks, and as such the societal risks involved with something such as this, is too high for me to consider it a worthy risk. Abortions should not, however, be treated as a form of birth control on its own. The way I see feminism going on about it in the USA, that is apparently where we are headed. With we, I of course mean Western society as a whole. Abortions as a secondary birth control, not as a heavy-hearted choice done due to no other options being available, reveals to me a frightening twisting and turning path, spiraling ever downwards. As it stands, women have quite a few options available other than abortion. Adoption, safe haven abandonments, morning after pill, things of that nature, none of which require the killing of an unborn child, though some of these of course require the pregnancy to be carried to term. None of which options require the consent of the father. Women do not consent to parenthood when they consent to sex. Only men do that. Not to mention the plethora of birth control options available to women. All these options are both liberating and oppressive simultaneously, depending on the point needed to be made by feminism at the moment. Men, on the other hand, have condoms or abstinence. This is, as stated, painted as a trespass upon women when and if necessary, as the horrors of having a wide array of options and possibilities available to them is discriminatory towards them. Why? For putting the responsibility on their shoulders, even when feminism pushes for state-sponsored birth control pills for women. It is astonishing. Everything is discriminatory towards women, even things that are, by their admission, not. Almost makes one believe the whole damned movement of feminism to be a highly opportunistic one, wherein the only thing that matters is whether or not it can be painted as some disadvantage to women at that particular moment. Consistency matters not. Only the immediate argument matters. When I see people celebrating their abortions as if that is some grand and glorious achievement, I am filled with something remarkably similar to disgust, almost turning me into a misanthrope, but only almost. Terminating life should not be cause for celebration. Happily, this is not the norm. Not at the moment, anyway. This idea that opposing abortion is something done solely by old and white men attempting to control the bodies of women is disgustingly dishonest. In fact, both men and women oppose abortion in just about equal numbers. Not that this ought to matter much. Pitting the sexes against each other, my tribe do this, your tribe do that, boo boo, is something done solely to perpetuate a nonsensical gender war, funneling resources, privileges, power, might and rights direct towards feminism under the guise of creating equality between the sexes. As long as men can be painted as the enemy of women, the facts don't matter, nor do intellectual consistency. But I digressed. It seems only fair to me that, if women shall be free to terminate pregnancies as they wish, men should be free to write away any responsibilities for a child if they so wish, so-called paper abortions. It should go without saying that I don't think men should be free to sign away any parental responsibilities if women are not allowed to do the same, by whichever means available to her. It also goes without saying that signing away any parental responsibilities also means signing away any parental rights. If he signs it away, he has absolutely no rights to see his child or take part in anything to do with his child. Also, signing away his rights and responsibilities should only, I think, be allowed within the same time frame that a woman has to choose whether or not to have an abortion. This, of course, would carry with it a law saying something to the effect that women have to inform the prospective father about a pregnancy within so and such a time. If she fails to deliver on this, he has the choice to opt in or not to opt in as he wishes, no matter how far ahead the pregnancy is. Fair is fair and equal should be equal after all. And this, I fear, will never happen, for the simple reason that it would be treating the sexes equally, and in this age of equality, that is the last thing you'll see happen. I wish I were joking. Equality does not mean treating everybody the same, as the pundits and the pestilent purveyors of political platitudes say. Personally, I believe people should be more thoughtful about how and who and when they fuck, given that I have no interest in living in a society in which laws dictate more than they already do how and whom we should fuck. I understand that this is not something that can be done through any other means than people considering their sexual partners more carefully, to in essence end hookup culture through a re-evaluation of values at an individual level. I understand, of course, that I sound like a prudish puritanical fuck with this, which I would like to stress that I am not. In fact, I am about as sexually liberal as they come. What consenting adults do is for no one but the consenting adults to decide. However, I happen to believe that the best course of action to be taken in order that a society is to function properly is to honour and celebrate the oh so unpopular in this day and age nuclear family, given of course that this family also functions properly. And this is with the understanding that the relationships sometimes break up completely naturally and as such are not salvageable. Measures ought to be taken, I believe, to try and salvage it for the sake of the children. It is undeniably in the best interest of the child to have both parents actively involved in the raising of said child, preferably as a couple functioning as a highly cooperative unified force. Self-aware and somewhat self-deprecating tradcon musings aside, I also think it would be prudent for paternity tests to be mandatory at birth, given how prevalent paternity fraud actually is. Frighteningly so. As a matter of fact, it is illegal in France for a man to get a paternity test done. Illegal. And that really says a lot, don't it? That is an incredible amount of power handed to women, and an incredible lack of power handed to men. It is illegal for a man in France to know with absolute certainty whether he really is the biological father or not. Relatively recently, over here in Norway, one of our moderately popular political parties actually proposed that paper abortions be made available to men, with much the same rules as I rambled about above. Nothing to be taken too lightly, in other words. As I don't think it should be. As much as I am aware that unplanned pregnancies do happen, I like to believe that most pregnancies are either planned or at the very least seen as a source of joy to both parties involved. And this proposal met with viciousness and vitriol from the feminist hordes as expected, because only women shall be free to choose whether they want to be parents. Men shall not be gifted this freedom. Men have no reproductive rights. They can keep it in their pants. Try saying this to women, and the effects are remarkably interesting. Telling a woman to not spread her legs if she does not wish to become pregnant is, once again, old white men trying to control a woman's body and tell her what to do. The hypocrisy is phenomenal, the double standards tangible, felt as a tactile sensation, like spiders crawling up and down one's spine. The feminists opposed to paper abortions for men apply the same arguments that pro-lifers, those enemies, those vile haters of women who are opposed to abortion apply, albeit with the sexes reversed. Astonishing. But more on this in part 2, wherein I shall share a rather amusing anecdote regarding my wife, Facebook, a feminist in her 50s, and the aforementioned proposal that men be allowed to sign away their parental rights and responsibilities. Such as women are allowed to for ridiculous reasons of bodily autonomy, self-ownership and other such nifty rhetorical tricks. Also astonishing, the father does not matter in the raising of a child, the feminist hordes have been saying for quite some time. Until, that is, it becomes a possibility that he can opt out. Then it suddenly matters, as a source of child support if nothing else. It is laughably hypocritical, but there you have it. Equal treatment does not mean equal treatment, as we all should damned well know by now. And that was that for this part. Please join me later for the next installment. This turned out bigger than I thought it would. This happens with some regularity. Thank you very much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this ramble more than my previous ramblings. Please check out the links down below should you wish to support my further descent into insanity. And I'll catch you next time. This is Mariology here, signing off.